Hey there! Last week when we covered PEAQ, it was at around 11 cents 50, and after the session it has risen for another 10 to 11%. So let's quickly see where PEAQ is heading to and whether there are still room for it to go further. This is the weekly chart of PEAQ, and we're covering the Wyckoff analysis as well as some candlestick patterns and also a Bollinger Band corner squeeze. So while I'm talking about it, let's switch on the indicator. So currently, the Bollinger Band corner squeeze, according to the calculations of the indicator, is not technically within the squeeze yet because the bottom purple line isn't inside the orange. But for me, that's already close enough because we've got a very narrow range trading happening, and probably in 2-3 weeks time, if there's no big swing happen, then it will eventually get into the technical squeeze zone. However, sometimes it just breaks out before the indicator catches it. We know it's a close enough scenario as of this moment. So let's go back to the drawings with the Wyckoff and the rest. So last week we talked about that the price seems to be heading towards a sign of strength. This backup last one of support may or may not be very obvious. Sometimes it's like a horizontal trading period, and before getting into the preliminary supply area and eventually towards the buying climax. And as of this moment, looking at these volumes, I would say it's pretty encouraging. This week's candle, even though it's got a smaller body or shorter body, it actually has a big support from the orange key level of 9 cents. So it tested that level and then got pushed really hard up to back to 11 cents and even past it and staying at around 12 cents 50 currently. These two high volume bars are good sign, especially if you're in the bulls team, waiting for the price to go up to hit at least the sign of strength, which hopefully touches or passes this green key level of 17 cents. So that's our first stop target, because a lot of times when a price hits a sign of strength, the behavior would be quite volatile. So assuming it hits this and go past it, sometimes it just comes back to do its sideways movement. So this drop isn't small, and sometimes it just comes back to somewhere around the orange level to further accumulate before it shoots up. So don't expect that when it passes or stays somewhere around the green key level, it would stay there for the horizontal movement and then go up. That's only one scenario. The other two is going back to a lower level to accumulate and then go up, or deeper and show us a test and some trading price actions before it goes up. So 3 different scenarios can happen. So let me add the tag here just so we are aware that there's a possibility. So I would say that's probably 20 to 25%. This hasn't happened yet. That's what we're hoping for. That's, I would say, that's 75%. And this will be coming after this, so it's included in the 75% scenario. So that's the big picture. We're hoping to see further upward movements and momentum, like including the volume. That's weekly backdrop, because that's going to control how the weekly can behave. So keep this in mind for the time being, and let's go to the daily. In the daily, I just want to quickly check the Bollinger Band corner squeeze. Previously, it's very narrow range, and like I said in the beginning, I consider these, even though the purple lines may not be within the orange, it's close enough that I absolutely take this as a squeeze period, and that's what happened. So on September 11th, that squeeze force has been released, and then it kept on going up and up to where we are now. So last week's session we were around this level, this dashed line, and then currently it's already heading up there, testing the second intermediate resistance. So what are these lines and where did they come from? So these two white dashed line is extended from this cycle over here, the accumulation cycle back in February this year all the way to May, before it climbs up for a bit and get to this low point for a deeper accumulation. So that was the sign of strength right there, and we are hoping to see one coming. So this, let me add a question mark because it hasn't happened yet. These also hasn't happened yet. So right now here, after this little climb, it's still not there yet, but that's where we want it to be. It seemed to find support at the orange key level. On the 16th it dropped, but immediately on the 17th we see quite an interesting battle between the bulls and the bears, and that candlestick body is so narrow it turns into a red cross. So there are names to these U-turn, but remember that's a good sign. Basically it finds support, somebody is like pushing hard from the bottom, making sure the price stays at that level, and the next day immediately it starts going back up. And for this another fight between the bull and bears, but technically speaking it's still on the uptrend. So there's a trend line formed already besides these two lines over there. If I were to draw a line right there, you see it's currently supported by an upward trend line, and this week's or today's candle actually is staying at the high point. I'm not currently drawing the upward channel box at the moment. You see in my other videos that I would put an upward channel box to see where the prices is going. Reason being, currently there are, well, you can say there are 3 points, meaning there's still room to adjust. So instead of this line that goes up, I can instead draw a box, but the top reference point is just 1 wick, so making it a little bit weak as a reference. So both works. I can adjust this further, and so turning this into a yellow box and take out the dashed line. So it works the same when I talk about the timing. So if I use that dashed line, basically it's the bottom edge of the upward channel box. To make it easier to differentiate, I turn it to light blue. What happened yesterday was a breakout from this triangle. So there was a triangle right here between the the white dashed line and the bottom edge of this box. So this tip over here is pointing towards somewhere around Monday. So we expect a breakout to happen above this line anyway, latest by Monday, and it already took off on Saturday, so it's good. Now it's heading towards another triangle, this right over here. Right, so the date is September 29th, meaning anytime from now till then, about 7 to 8 days. That means the coming week, basically. Another breakout will happen. So there are 2 options. One, to break above this white dashed line and test the yellow key level. That's 14 cents. The other scenario is break outside of this upward channel box, maybe find support at this white dashed line at around 10 cents 70 or 11 cents, before it find new ways upwards. So that means it has to develop another upward channel. This one, it's over. As of this moment, I would say the chance of it staying within this upward channel box is higher than breaking outside, because if you still remember, I mentioned to keep this in mind, the big picture, that's heading towards the sign of strength. That's where the basis is coming from when I say it probably is going to stay within this box for a longer while instead of coming outside. Having said that, it doesn't mean it can't test the bottom edge of the box. It can still do these kind of actions to test, but usually the price moves within a channel, it will behave in a way that it hits the bottom, bounce towards the top, and it hits the bottom and then go up again. Sometimes it would bounce back when it hits the center line and do a half box movement. So either at the bottom half or the upper half. That's completely normal. It's like when you're playing air hockey, those games in arcade center, that's where like the air hockey bounces between the edges of the table. You can visualize it that way. Okay, let's shrink the chart and see whether we have missed anything. This is a pretty flat period since basically March this year, for half a year already, over half a year, and we're still within this accumulation zone. Understandable, PEAQ is new and it still have to take its time to gather its supporters and understanding by the people, and also for the project to develop and get more partnerships, all that. So this is a normal development period. It's just the timing that makes it difficult, because a lot of the other altcoins suffer as well during, like after the peak in the beginning of this year. So PEAQ is not an exception. It's just one of the masses. But again, stay positive. If this really goes up and breaks the level where the automatic rally was, that's the green level, and heading towards challenging the light blue, that's I would say a first positive sign. Not to celebrate big yet, because the last peaks, the buying climax as well as the upthrust, was way above at the purple key level of 65 cents. So we're just like less than 20% of where it was. So that's the big hope up there. If the buying climax reaches that level, that's perfect. That's the time to celebrate. But then I mentioned in other sessions, for altcoins, this broader support of crypto or blockchain means not only a positive news for projects that are already there, but also meaning more competition. That's why it's going to dilute the capital. So more money flows in, but then more projects to choose from. So it's not just a net gain for whoever that's already in the market being traded, but it can be just a redistribution of capital. Much like you've got more glasses, yeah, you've got a bigger bucket of water, but then like from 5 glasses, now you have 10 glasses, and that big bucket of water is going to be evenly distributed. So as of now, I would say if there are incumbents, the previous projects, if their price on a weekly time frame at least, their peaks, their distribution peaks, the buying climaxes and upthrust or upthrust after distributions, they stay at a level somewhere around the previous distribution cycles, that's already a good result, I would say, because of like the more classes that we have, like I said. For these new coins, even more so, because that means they have kept their supporters and not like it's one time and then it never comes back. So finger crossed for you if you're supporting PEAQ, and hopefully we'll see a buying climax that heads back to the purple key level of 65 cents.